So we welcome Charlie Iscoe to the Cash Rich Exit podcast. Great to have you here
Thank you.
today.
Thanks so much for having me.
We're here to talk about I think, a pretty important and big topic for the business owner community, the fact that there's far too many without a plan for their exit, right?
It's a big topic.
It's a big topic. It's
It's
meaty.
a big topic.
Will we be able to solve all things today? Probably not, but I think
We'll try our best.
we'll try our best. We have at least one option for the business owners out there listening to consider, right?
Absolutely.
Great. So, Charlie, my listeners don't know you. Maybe give us just a very brief top line, like who are you?
Who am I? So my name is Charlie Iscoe. I'm the co-founder of a business called Common Shares. And just a little bit about my background and how Common Shares all kind of came to be and what we're doing. So my background is I spent the first 10 plus years of my career in New York as a professional investor. And public equities, private equities. I've invested across a broad range of industries during that period of time. And I came back here to Toronto in early 2020, had an itch to start a business, and did just that with my wife and brother actually. And that was sort of my foray into entrepreneurship, small business ownership, and starting to think a little bit differently. And a couple of years ago, I started to think about my next challenge, and for a period of time was looking for a small business to buy and operate myself. And I came close on a couple opportunities, but ultimately decided not to pull the trigger because I kept hearing this recurring theme during that period of time. And it felt like there was a bigger play and there was a bigger impact and a bigger issue that needed to be solved for. And what I mean by that is I spoke to a bunch of retiring business owners during that period of time. And that recurring theme went something like, Charlie, I want a fair price for my business. I want value for the decades of work that I put into this, but it's not the only thing. I'm really, really concerned about what happens to my people, what happens to my community. And so I kept thinking, if the handful of folks that I'm talking to are saying this, I feel like this is a much more prevalent issue,
Mhm.
particularly for this demographic. And sure enough, there's actually great data out there that speaks
Mhm.
exactly to that, where 90% of retiring business owners say that protecting their people and thinking about their community is essential when it comes to deciding who to sell to. And so that's when I started working with some really talented folks and some other entrepreneurs and executives to build what is now Common Shares. And what we do is we go to retiring business owners and we say, sell to us because we're going to help you solve for that succession problem. And you're going to sell to us as if you're selling to any other financial buyer, but we make a commitment to transition the ownership of your business to your people over time. So it is a much more people centric succession option for retiring business owners. And it's that sort of insight that we've sort of studied with other business models around the world that has really unlocked that issue for retiring owners who are
Mhm.
thinking about not just getting a fair price for their business, but also taking care of their people along the way.
Yeah, and your experience, academic background, professional background in investment banking, coming back to Canada. I mean, I'm in Ottawa, you're in Toronto, but let's face it, like it's great to develop our self-reliance here in Canada and keep great businesses operating the communities and for, our nation as a whole. Yeah, so I guess you noticed some of the stuff that I was doing here with the podcast and talking about exits, and we got to chatting, and yeah, I think this is a important option for the business owner community to know is available, right? What is that
100%.
statistic? Yeah, what is that stat?
No,
You know,
which one?
the stat about how many Canadian businesses don't have a plan.
The stat is 90%.
So,
It's a
hey,
shocking number.
yeah. Are you
Yeah, like
listening? Is that you?
not
Uh,
there's a 90% chance that it is.
yeah. Yeah.
It's a huge issue. And your point before around uh, investing in Canada, supporting Canada, what you were just mentioning a second ago, it's a huge part of our mission. It's a huge byproduct of what we are doing, and it's core to what we believe in. Because I don't know if a lot of people know this, but small businesses are the backbone of our economy, right? Like it makes up half the economy, and it's 70% of our private sector jobs. And if those business owners don't have a great succession plan, it could be disastrous, right? Because
Mhm.
it means that many of these businesses are at risk of closing up shop or being sold to foreign buyers if that decision gets pushed out far too long and is not planned for appropriately. And so that has huge negative wealth impacts on the country as a whole
Mhm.
if we let that happen. And like I come from that world in New York from my
Mhm.
previous experience. New York, not New York, but US private equity firms are flush with tons of capital, and they're increasingly coming north of the border every single year, and they are buying up our small businesses.
Mhm.
And if we look back in 10 to 15 years after, this generational transfer of business ownership takes place, and most of our economy is owned by US private equity firms, that's a pretty dismal outlook for the country.
It is. And this is not it's not a political statement. It's just, it is
No,
the state of the situation right now. Yeah.
that's right. Yeah.
And I
Whether
talking
you're,
here, yeah, and
yeah,
I'm talking here about cash rich exits, right? So, I mean, it's a big fancy name, but it's not all about the dollars and cents, right? It does boil down to dollars and cents, but it is about our like the legacy and the impact, and it's not just the dollars and cents for the business owner. It is all of the other ways in which the business creates the web, right? In the communities, the team, all of the above. So, walk us through. I know I gave you a lot of questions, and we're having conversation here, so roll with me on this. But
sure.
walk us through what it would look like if you got to the point where, actually, let's take a step back. Walk us through what type of businesses are you specifically looking to bring into common shares, and then we can talk about what that process is and why it's different than just a general financial buyer or some type of private equity.
Yeah. Generally speaking, we're pretty industry agnostic. Um, we tend to gravitate towards light manufacturing and service based business models. But there are reams and reams of data out there that show how employee owned businesses outperform their peers across a broad range of industries. So we think that our model is actually very applicable across a wide variety of industries. Um, so we're nationwide, um, but and fairly industry agnostic, but we tend to gravitate towards those sort of light manufacturing and service based business models.
Expand on service space for just a second. You have like a few specific examples of what you refer to,
Sure. So professional service firms is an area that we've spent a bunch of time in.
like
Uh,
architects,
yes,
engineers, that type of
that's
thing.
right. Yeah, architects, engineers, accounting, that whole space. And then as you think about B2B services, that could be property services, residential services as well. So, you think about landscaping, tree care, things like that, facility services, those kinds of companies.
Okay, good. So, you've identified there's a business owner who it wants to sell. You've identified it as a good option for common shares. Walk us through what you would anticipate happening if you were getting serious about moving forward and closing on a
Yeah.
transaction.
So with our model, business owners sell to us as if they were selling to any other financial buyer. So we pay you a fair market price for your business, and you get to plan for your retirement. And we also have a really deep and growing bench of talented operators that we look to install and support at our companies. because we know that in many cases, business owners don't have a great successor lined up. We recognize that that's a common issue. And so on day one, assuming that we have a great fit and you think that we're a great home for your business, we will allocate 10% of the equity to your team. And over time, as long as they maintain service with the business, that pool of equity continues to grow, and we issue more and more equity to the team over time for their continued service.
So in essence, you're supporting another way for an employee ownership.
That's right. That's right. And for the employees, they actually, we get this question a lot. Well, my employees can't afford that. They can't buy you out over time. And the nice thing about our model is that they don't have to. We use a portion of the business's cash flow, after we reinvest in it and support the business. We use a portion of the cash flow of the company to gradually buy ourselves out over time. And so that's how the employees can grow their equity in the business through their continued service. The business basically supports them in that journey.
Okay, and so why not buy the company and run it and take the dividend into common shares, and like why bother to transition to the employees? Why is that? Why do you see that as a better option?
A few reasons. One is this is a way of ensuring that these businesses remain locally owned and operated for generations to come, because the employees become the long-term owners of the business. And we provide incredible, unprecedented wealth opportunities for those people. The second piece is going back to what I said before is how do we go to a retiring owner or any business owner, frankly, and make a strong commitment to you that your people are going to directly benefit from this transition over to us. And the way in which we make that commitment is through this gradual increase of ownership to your team. We want to create unprecedented opportunities for them that you would not otherwise have by selling to anybody else.
Okay. You mentioned that you could bring in a team to support the transition, like management roles. What is that all about? Tell us a little bit more about who they are and how that works.
Yeah, it's a core part of our operation, and we have a bench that's approaching about 100 really talented operators who are all eager to run a small business, but perhaps don't have the capabilities of sourcing them, finding them, doing the proper diligence, but they would be fantastic operators. And so they want to partner with Common Shares in that journey. The reason why that's so important is because, going back to what we said before, 90% of business owners don't have a good succession plan.
Mm-hmm.
And as part of that succession plan is who's going to run my business? I think oftentimes one of the reasons business owners delay that decision making is they don't know who's going to run it. Maybe they have a good general manager, or maybe they have a couple good folks, but oftentimes these business owners are still doing a lot and they don't know how to relinquish those responsibilities. We can help with that. And that's why we have this really deep bench. That's why there's an important matchmaking exercise that goes into that whole process of who do we have in our roster that aligns well with the needs of the business, both from an industry standpoint or from the past experience, or just from their functional expertise. Is this a business that would benefit from a growth marketer? Well, we have a whole bunch of those that we can install at this business to lead a sales organization. So that's why it's really important, because these small businesses are oftentimes quite reliant on the owner, and we know that we need to be able to find someone to step in many cases.
When is the right time for a business owner to, speak with you, I guess it would be you, right? Like you're pretty much the having those initial conversations. Am I right? Or is there somebody else
Yes.
on your team?
No, yeah, it would be me. Uh, I would say we're always happy earlier than later to start developing a relationship with you, even if you're not ready to sell. If you just want to understand how it works,
Mm-hmm.
think about us as an option maybe in 3-4 years down the road when your ducks are in a row a little bit better. We we always think earlier is better because this is an important decision and you want to know who you're going to be selling to. You want to be able to build that relationship over time. Uh, I think when you're actually ready to sell, we're not necessarily the ones that are going to help you package up your business and sell it. That's not what we do.
Okay,
That
that's good
there's
to
well,
make
yeah,
clear the distinction between what you do versus what you don't do.
no, 100%. That's where folks like you really come into play is just helping business owners think about, the oftentimes multi-year journey to get their business ready for sale and think about those different options available to them. There's a whole, you probably want to be talking to your accountants, your lawyers, your wealth managers, your financial planners, folks like you, to help set your business up to be as successful as possible when it is time to sell.
Right. Um, what um, what advice would you have? I mean, we're going to talk about the fun, frank advice at the end with that, but what advice would you have for somebody who maybe it's been in the back of their mind, but they really haven't taken a first step? Like, what would be your advice as far as like just like what would be the first step to take? Because that's
When
often the
they,
hardest, right? Like the just
yeah,
taking
it
some
is.
action.
Yeah. Well, I think step one is start. Just I know just I know that sounds, so flippant, but like it really you can always change your mind about what's important, but start jotting down what is important to you.
Mm,
And I would lump that into a few key buckets. One is what do I want from this financially in this transition? So things like, how much do I want? How much do I think I need for my retirement? Just start jotting these things down. I think number two would be, what do I want my involvement to look like afterwards? Do I want to fully exit? Do I want to stay involved? Do I gradually want to step back? How soon do I want to step away?
do I have something else
Uh,
to do if I'm not doing all
do I
this
have
right all
do I have
day?
something else to do?
Mm-hmm.
Do I have other hobbies that I want to go spend, all those hours a week doing? So so often I talk to business owners and they say, I don't know what to do with, I wouldn't know what to do with myself
Mm-hmm.
afterwards. Well, so think long and hard about that. So maybe part of your plan is, what, I do want to remain involved in this business. And so maybe I'll just sell a majority stake of the business today and I'll roll some equity. That's another key decision. Um, do you want to keep some skin in the game, right? You don't have to sell your entire business. If you like the buyer that you're working with, maybe you want to take another bite at the apple with them. But we're working on one right now with that exact structure. Um, Perhaps most importantly, though, is what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind for your employees, for your customers, for your family? What are the other sort of qualitative factors that you want out of all this? So I think those are kind of like the three big buckets. Just start writing them down. I think getting clarity on those points really form the foundation for every decision afterwards, and it informs the kinds of parties that you'll entertain selling to, and how you do so. Um, and I think after you've done that, and once you have some of those answers, don't do this alone. Going back to what we said before, it takes a lot to prepare your business for sale. So, get a trusted team together, with people like you, people like, your accountants, your lawyers. It takes time.
Yeah, yeah. The more I'm building out the ecosystem so that I can provide access to supports in M&A, in employee ownership, and in strategies like common shares. What I think is be curious and test a few different ways to look at how that succession might appear. But to your point, do something rather than just think about it, right?
It's scary, right? Like it's a big decision. Uh, you don't you're not going to have all the answers right away, and so that makes it even scarier, oftentimes. And so you just sort of have to start chipping away at it and thinking about some of the answers to those questions that I was just mentioning.
Yeah. So, Charlie, how would somebody listening today in the Self-Made Nation, a CEO, founder, business owner, how would they find you? Where can they get in touch with you?
Our website is commonshares.ca. And we have a form you can fill out there, or you can honestly email me directly. Just charlie@commonshares.ca. And I'll respond to you right away. It's simple. We want to keep a pretty open line of communication with everyone.
Excellent. And what would you say would be one piece of fun, frank advice that we can wrap our chat up with in a bow?
Hmm. I think if you're listening to this, it's probably because you've built something remarkable and something that matters, uh, not just to you, but also to your employees, your community, and the many families who rely on your business. And so when it comes time to think about succession, uh, it's about so much more than selling your business or planning for retirement. This is your opportunity to make sure everything you've worked so hard to build is set up to thrive for the long term. And so that's ensuring that people who helped you get there are taken care of, and to keep your business as a force for good in the community that it calls home. Like, this decision carries real weight. And so, I think that, as you've probably heard many, many times over the course of this conversation, just take the time to get it right.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Charlie, for being here today, bringing some insight and another way, another option, another avenue to look at in terms of business exit succession.
I appreciate you having me on, and thanks so much.